All right. Happy Monday. It's not Monday, it's Wednesday. Been a long week already. Appreciate you guys taking the time out on your Wednesday night to hang out with me on the AMA. We do these every Monday and Wednesday night. Run it down here in the chat with all the fantastic questions that you guys have when it comes to digital assets, mitigating taxes, setting up your estate, making sure that you're prepared for, hopefully the coming liquidity event in digital assets in the bull run. But things have kind of stalled out here. You got gold falling, you got stocks starting to come back a little bit. And Trump says that things are going to go up and to the right. So let's hope he's calling it. He did say stocks are going to go down. They went down. Now he's saying they're going to go up. So haven't seen the Fed lower interest rates. We don't have another FOMC until next month. But we do have Treasury rates rising. I don't know if you guys are watching this or not, but we got the 10-year back over 5%. We got the 30-year U.S. Treasury almost back at 5%. Last time it was at 5% is when things started to go a little wonky. Markets did not look so good. So watching that, trying to make sure that we're staying on top of it for our funds and our people, staying ahead of the curve. And you're here listening to this, so you are too. Got lots of things going on in the market. We have Coinbase currently 13 years in business, which is interesting to me. I don't know if they were formed in San Diego about the same time as Ripple. They had to have been. I think they may have even officed out of the same building to begin with, which is interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever looked that up or not, but they have XNS was actually what XRP was called when it was first minted. It was pre-mined, all 100 billion of them back in the day. And that was done on June 2nd, 2012. So this year will be 13 years that XRP has been running strong. The network has only ever paused a couple times. We're just a few weeks away from the 13th birthday for XRP. We've got the 13th birthday for Coinbase, though. So pretty exciting. They're going to be listed on the S&P 500, which is a big deal, big deal. I'm sure that they'll probably be there ringing the bell on the 19th, same day that XRP Futures goes live for the CME here in the United States as well. So big day, May 19th this year. And then we've got, just 3 days later is the last day that the SEC can approve or deny Grayscale's application for their spot ETF for XRP. So big month here in May. We had the stablecoin bill not quite make it through last week on Thursday. Talked to this a little bit on Monday, but I think a little birdie told me that Tether really just doesn't want that to happen. So I don't know if there's some lobbying going on there. Thank you, babe. Appreciate you. A wonderful wife, always with the tea. Teamwork makes the dream work. So anyway, I don't know if there's anything going on there. Lutnick is obviously part of the cabinet. But Tether's making a lot of money, like a lot of money, like more money than BlackRock. So they probably don't want that to, come under scrutiny. And if the stablecoin bill is passed, that is going to bring Tether under the U.S.'s jurisdiction, even though they have moved operations offshore down there to another country. I can't slip in my mind right now. It's been a long day. So with that, just a lot of things kind of stewing here. I feel like we're in the calm before the storm. Maybe the melt up, is going to happen first, and then the meltdown is kind of what I'm seeing imminently on the horizon here. So with that, we're going to hop into it. We'll go ahead and jump into the questions here, run down on the super chats and everything else here on YouTube and X and over here on TikTok as well. I'm going to start on TikTok tonight. This person says, what's your thoughts on Quant price once XRP adoption is mainstream? I've talked about Quant a few times. Still don't understand the value proposition for Quant. I understand the value proposition for Overledger and its interoperability. I think that Axelar competes pretty directly with Quant and what they've created. The asset itself does not settle transactions over Overledger. It's just to pay the gas fees in order to participate and utilize the network. So I know that there's a lot of, decimal places in Quant. Like it can go out to like 18 decimal places, and there is a supply vector that looks like it should cause the price to appreciate. It could definitely go higher. I made a bunch of money on Quant, got in at like $7, sold out at like 250. So made my money on it. And the speculative bull run, that was 21 into 22. And yeah, I definitely could go places, but it's not something that's in my portfolio. We got Nicole. Hey, ma'am. She says, hey, Jake, I respect the magnitude of your conviction. Sincerest gratitude for your family's service to us and all. If the recarry trade never happens, what's the best estimate for the year and the value of XRP? Well, I view the reverse carry trade as an imminent inevitability. It's going to happen. So there's not really a circumstance where that doesn't play out. It's just how much time until that plays out. There's really no way to unwind that without it being a big problem. When you've leveraged things like that, tens of trillions of dollars, to unwind that would take it, very similar to like BlackRock. They unwound the financial crisis in 2008 by packaging up bad debt with good debt and then selling that off over time. You'd have to do something methodical like that and be very slow and methodical about getting those loans repaid and incentivizing people to do so. So markets would have to do poorly for an extended period of time globally. There would have to be basically the arbitrage opportunity there between the interest rates and refinancing those loans would have had to have been much more methodically unwound than they have been. There's already been a very aggressive rate hike by the Bank of Japan, and for them to walk that back at this point would just cause further inflation in their economy, which they can't do. It would destroy things over there. So they're in between a rock and a hard place. They're really backed into a corner here, and they're going to continue to have to raise interest rates there in Japan at some point in the near future. Again, because of the inflation there and their mandate and their central bank. So the only way out is through for them, and they need to introduce a CBDC so that they can augment or control the velocity of money in their economy to be able to offset that inflation and manipulate that in the way that they want to. And for them to do that, they're going to have to de-risk from U.S. Treasuries. They are the largest U.S. Treasury holder outside of the U.S. It's like $1.6 trillion. Maybe it's a little bit less than that, 1.3 at this point. It's a lot. So when they do liquidate those, and they are going to, in order to continue to foster growth within their own economy and move things over to this new system, the reverse carry trade is going to inevitably unwind when that happens. And that's going to be the cause for the stablecoin regulation being pushed through here in the U.S. They're going to need a catalyst for that. You've got people in opposition to it, obviously. So you're going to need something that's a pretty large force or catalyst to really push that through Congress. And a collapsing debt market would definitely do that. And you're already starting to see this. You're starting to see Treasury rates here in the U.S. go up at a fairly aggressive rate, and that means people are de-risking and selling off Treasuries onto the market. We can't print more money because we will, if you issue QE and M2 money supply goes up here, we will just exacerbate inflation also. And so they're really backed into a corner where they're going to have to pass stablecoin regulation when that happens. So, I mean, I could sit here and guess at stuff, but the reality of the situation is that the reverse carry trade is going to unwind this year. And it is going to cause XRP to be a much, much higher value than whatever it would be without it. 3-4 digits. She also says, it's so confusing of what we do and don't qualify for. Could your team create a chart? Devastated to learn that you're $10 cutoff after appreciation. Who can we trust without you? Look, here's the deal. I think we're going much higher than $10. I don't think it's just going to pause there. The rate at which XRP is going to appreciate in a very short period of time from the moment that it moves from here is going to be substantial. Much more than enough for most people to qualify for our services. Okay. And I'll break it down for you. So somewhere between, when your assets are somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000, it's a good idea to set up an LLC. We do that end to end for people. It's $2,000 if you use the code 50OFF, 50OFF LLC. So EIN, articles of organization, certificate of good standing, registered agent, the template for the operating agreement, virtual office, list goes on and on. There's a lot of things we provide, and we're going to continue to add to that. I actually had a conversation just the past couple of days at a mastermind event I was at with a new partner that will be able to do all the compliance stuff for our current clients and future clients. So that's where that's at. In order to be able to work with us on the custody side, the economics don't really make sense for less than like $250,000. And that's the reason for that. You know, if we're charging you 2% on $250,000, we have to pay fees and costs also, just so you guys are aware. And there's a certain level where that's fixed, and then there's a certain level where it becomes basis points of what we're holding there. And I didn't make these fees. We have an institutional grade custodian that has compliance, that's regulated by the OCC, that has infrastructure costs, employment, overhead. Anchorage is the best of the best here in the US when it comes to institutional grade custody. And so therefore, you know, we have to be able to accommodate them and pay their cost. We don't make much money, just so you're aware, for the services that we provide. And less than that amount is really not economically feasible for most people. If you're holding less than $250,000 also, like, probably just keep it on a thumb drive in your house, right? Not to say that that's not a meaningful amount of money, because it absolutely is to a lot of people. But if it's less than 100,000 XRP at this point, we will probably drop the amount of XRP in the future, just so you're aware. Even if we move it to $1 million, if you had a $50 XRP, that would be 20,000 XRP. And we may still drop it in half again. We may keep it at around the $500,000 mark for people denominated in XRP. So that'd be 10,000 XRP at a $50 XRP, which is where I think it's kind of going in the short term based on Swift adoption and the ETFs and the reverse carry trade and a bunch of other things that I'm seeing. So I know people are like concerned about $10, but I think it's going to fly right past $10. I don't think that there's going to be a pit stop there or anything else. There's a lot of people that have thought $10 to $13 for a long time. They're not looking at a log chart for XRP. They're looking at a linear chart. Digital assets move in a logarithmic pattern. And if you lay the log chart over XRP, it's going to thousands. And that's, you know, that's why, again, there's just a lot of confluence there that leads me to believe that it's probably closer to $50 in a short-term move versus 10 to 13. So again, you know, $1 million is very reasonable for the services that we provide. And the rates get cheaper and cheaper the more value that you have, the more that the asset appreciates. We've continued to reduce rates for clients because, you know, we get a reduction in rates also. The more AUM we're holding, the more of a reduced rate we get as far as basis points go that we're able to negotiate with Anchorage and our other partners as well. So that's the reason for that. It's not because we just want to exclude people or we don't like small fish. That is not the case at all. We want to be able to help as many people as we possibly can. But unfortunately, the economics just force things to be the way that they are. And I'm highly confident that people will have way more than enough to work with us when the time comes. And that's the other reason that I'm not overly concerned about, you know, the thresholds that we're putting in place. The other thing is we want to continue to provide a high level of service for people. And the way that we're growing right now is already, we've had some hiccups, right? There's been some stuff that, you know, we've done a good job recovering from and making sure that people are taken care of. But just in the background, so you guys know, like, it's not perfect. There have been growing pains, and we've been trying to make sure that we don't have the level of service that I demand and expect from our team and want to provide people is very high. And so because of that, we want to scale out the team and make sure they're trained properly, and we can curate the service to the standards that we want to provide for people. And raising the minimums will allow us a bit more time to be able to do that in a meaningful way, especially if the amount of people that are going to qualify at that point. So anyway, and again, if I could take everybody, I would. Unfortunately, custody is not free. The services that we provide aren't free. We have cost and overhead. We already operate on a very low margin. And we do that because we believe in the asset. We want to provide as much value as we can to the XRP family and the community. And like I said, if there was an economic model that made sense for us to accommodate everyone, I would love to do it. And I think at some point in the future, it definitely will, especially if prices appreciate at the rate and to the amounts that I think it will be. So I know it's frustrating in the short term, but we absolutely are doing the best that we can to make sure that we can take care of as many people as we can. So I appreciate your patience, and we will be able to work with you. It just may take a little bit longer than I would like. We have Spinny B. They say, thank you for your leadership. If I had a chunk of cash, would you wait for the spot ETF approval or buy XRP tokens now and store them in the decent wallet? I bought more today, Spinny. When you hear it on the news, it's too late, is what I'll say. You already got the case. Like, I don't know how much clearer it can be at this point. The case is pretty much over. You've got the ETFs ready to launch. I'm on here talking about the reverse carry trade playing out and XRP going to $50, $100, $1,000. And people want to penny pinch in hopes that it's going to go back down to 50 cents. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you flat out. Do I have a crystal ball? No. Can I absolutely say that with complete assurance? No. But I am 99.999999% sure that it's bottomed and it's up from here. Okay. Even with Tether and everything else that I think is going to play out, I do not think you're going to have the opportunity to buy XRP cheaper. Just dollar cost average, right? Like if you had a good chunk of cash, the way that we do it when somebody has millions of dollars that they want to enter the market with, what we do is we do TWAP or VWAP. And it's a time weighted or volume weighted average where you average into the market over a week or 2 weeks. And you do that on a daily basis and you're watching it, and if it dips, you buy. And if it goes up, you hold, right? So you're looking for those small micro dips in the market to continue to average in over a period of time without a bunch of slippage or volatility when you have larger amounts. Now, when you say a good chunk of cash, like I'm thinking $1 million, $2 million, maybe it's 10, 20, 30,000. I don't know what a good chunk of cash is to you. But for me, like I continue to just buy when I can, as much as I can, because it's like buying Bitcoin at $2. Like if I'm going to store my money anywhere, that's where I want it to be. So not financial advice. Obviously, my preferences and biases play into that. So take it with a grain of salt. You might get a pullback. You might see 220 again, but I don't think you're going to see anything less than that. Just my personal opinion. Again, just one guy on the internet. Gunpowder Overload. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, can you clarify 2 comments you made previously? Open an LLC around 50K in assets, but also to do it before big gains. How should someone with 10K less than XRP weigh those 2 ideas? So here's the reasoning on that. If you had $50,000 today, you'd have like 20,000 XRP, right? So 250, let's call it 20,000 XRP. If that goes to $1,000, it's 20 mil. Is that right? I don't have my phone in front of me. I think that's right. So 20,000 times 1,000 would be 3 more. Yeah, it'd be $20 million. Okay. That's still within the gift tax threshold. Like you could probably set up an LLC after that and be okay. Now, if you had $80,000 or $100,000 in XRP, now we got like 50,000 XRP or 40,000 XRP. Okay. And if you got $1,000 XRP at that point, now we're looking at 40 or 50 million. that's over the gift tax threshold here in the US. And to move it into an LLC at that point, it's clunkier. So the gift tax threshold is really what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at that. It's not necessarily the dollar value today. It's what I think XRP could potentially go to in a short period of time, depending on macroeconomic events and what kind of plays out, and where you'll be positioned with the value that you'll have at that point, and if you're better positioned with it in the LLC, or you can just move it in later. If you had 20 million in assets, you could probably move it in later and still be okay. Or you could go ahead and set up the trust, because you're not going to need to squeeze that value down to gift more out of your taxable estate. Now, that's again predicated on it being and staying at a high value, but I think once it's at 1,000, it will. So that's how I'm thinking through that, and that's why we recommend that amount versus something less than that. And the benefit that you're going to derive from it, like what's the cost? So let's say you spent the $2,000 to set up the LLC with us today. It could have bought you another 1,000 XRP or close to it. I mean, if you only had, and I say less than, you said less than 10,000 here, so I don't mean to be derogatory with only. I'm just saying if you had less than 10,000 XRP and you could buy another 1,000 XRP, the return on that versus trying to mitigate taxes or setting things up now, you're going to be better off buying more of the digital asset. And I'm going to give it to you guys straight. Like, would I love to just sell everybody an LLC and make money off of that, the little bit that we make? Sure. But is it in your best interest? Probably not. I always want to be a fiduciary and provide the best advice for people in their best interest, not mine. And I tell my team that all the time. They had a call with a guy today, talking to Connor. The gentleman had like 25,000 XRP, and he was like, well, I don't know if you need to set up an LLC yet. Honestly, until you got over $80,000 worth, you're probably better buying more XRP, man. And we're not ever going to tell you no. We'll set up an LLC if somebody's got $1,000 invested in digital assets and they want to protect it and they think it's going 10,000x tomorrow, right? We want to be able to provide that service and do our best, but at the same time, we also want to advise people in their best interest. So that's the reason. It's not because it's not a good idea. It's just a cost to benefit, and that's how I think through it. We got Dangerous Dave. It's an interesting name. He says, down on the hey from Australia. I was wondering what your thoughts about Axelar. I think Axelar is awesome. I think that network in particular is going to see a lot of volume with the integration of stablecoins and interoperability between EVM compatible chains and Solana and the EVM side chain on the XRPL. I think that, like I said, is going to compete with Overledger in a lot of ways, and has probably garnered more market traction and more partnerships to be able to provide value versus Overledger. My personal opinion. If I had to choose between the two, I'd choose Axelar over Quant any day of the week. Again, just one guy. I'm probably ignorant, so don't get butthurt. This is just my opinion on things after talking to both teams and looking through the protocols and discerning my own opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and you can go do your own research and tell me I'm silly, which I'm also fine with. But I really like Axelar, bullish on it for sure. And thank you for the super chat. We got KJ. Can you explain the significance of XRP being involved with the CME? I sure can. So in 2017, the CME was launched for Bitcoin. That's when you saw the top of Bitcoin. People were then able to short Bitcoin. The CME has the largest breadth and index for futures. And once an asset's listed there, it's much more available for institutions to be able to hedge against volatility in the asset or profit if they take the long side. And so you need that in place. It's a prerequisite and has been every time before spot ETFs were launched. So you're not going to see spot ETFs on XRP until the CME lists XRP and futures trading is available to institutions to be able to hedge their bets and make sure that they're going to be able to participate in the most meaningful way for them. And so that's why it's so huge, because it is the precursor to the spot ETFs, in my opinion, for XRP. And I don't think we're going to see any movement on the spot ETFs until after the 19th of this month, when that goes live. We've got, is XRP a good buy now? I bought more today, William. You do what you want, not financial advice. Everything here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always speak with your wealth advisor before making any investment decisions. If you need a wealth advisor for crypto, you can always reach out to Digital Wealth Partners at digitalwealthpartners.net. They are the only SEC registered RIA that deals exclusively with digital assets. I'm XRP says, an LLC has LLC holders. How do we access the new virtual office? Also, do you know if I can link my business account to Securitize to pay my Anchorage custodial fees? See you in Vegas. We don't have ACH payment yet. You have to wire funds over. I know. It's a pain in the ass. We're continually asking Anchorage for it. And then being a bank and not having ACH is like frustrating. Just simple stuff that you would think that they would have, a Plaid integration or something to be able to move money over. So it's coming. They are working on it. They've assured us of that, but it is probably a Q3 or Q4 thing, unfortunately. So just you're gonna have to wire money over for the time being, or you can fund the account with USDC and we can pay it that way. That'd probably be the better solution, and it'd be cheaper than having to send a wire. And new virtual office is up and running. So if you want to utilize the registered agent's address that we provide when you set up an LLC with us to get mail, you can. You just list that on whatever you want for your mail, or whoever you're partnering with, and they will be able to send that mail there. You will get an email to your email address that's on file with that mail, whatever shows up there on a daily basis. And if you want the physical copy for whatever reason, you just let us know. You reply to that email and we'll forward it to you. But an email, most of the time, it gets scanned. You'll see it. And most of the time it's just like credit card offers and a bunch of crazy stuff. But if you are going to use that address for bank transactions or bank statements or other things, then yeah, you will get those forwarded to you. You're just going to use that registered agent's address as the virtual office. Appreciate the question. It's a good question. We got GI Kai with the super chat. Thank you so much. He said, if I was holding 12,000 XRP and can wait 2 to 3 years, would that be enough to generate 100K per year from income? Thanks for everything, Jake. You're the GOAT. Appreciate the kind words, man. I think so. I mean, in 2 to 3 years, I think XRP will be worth $10,000 a piece. So if that's the case, you're looking at, is that really that number? Yeah, it's be like 120 million. Is that right? At $1,000 XRP would be 12 million. Yeah. So you're looking at $120 million if you could hold it that long. Wild. So yeah, you could absolutely, I mean, you could, if you were making 1% on that, that would still be 1.2 million. Way more than 100K a year. It'd actually be 100K a month at just 1%. So yeah, I think that you could absolutely be generating that much in a 2 to 3 year period if we get the price appreciation on XRP that I think we're going to, and that's going to be predicated on its adoption for the derivatives market. And there's a few other qualifiers there for that to transpire. But based on what I'm seeing and how aggressively I think things are going to move on the other side of regulations and the implementation of this technology, I think that that's extremely feasible. So I think a lot of people are going to be very happy. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I know people are frustrated they can't hold assets with us right now, but once these appreciate, like, you're going to blow past the minimums. People are not going to have a problem. And we're doing it to kind of gatekeep a little bit right now so that we can make sure that we're able to handle the volume that we have and set up systems and SOPs and really be able to scale and provide the best level of service on the other side of appreciation. We got Rippled. They say, thank you, Jake, for being the steward of the little guy. See, I am. Like, we have the mastermind. We do a ton of stuff. We have in-person events. I try to make sure that we're educating people, because I do think even the little guy, like 12,000, 10,000, 8,000 XRP, it's going to be worth a lot of money later on. And we want to make sure these people do have the understanding to be able to preserve that wealth. And like, imagine if you had 8,000 Bitcoin from early on and you held it. You know what I mean? Like, doing really good. You got, what would that be? If that 100,000 a piece, you got $800 million, like almost a billionaire. Anyway, would love to see you in the mastermind if that's something you're interested in. You can go to mastermind.beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. I think it's going to be up here at the top, coming onto the screen in just a second. He says, I'm working with Connor. Glad to hear it. He said, move my wife and my iTrust account over to DWP. Very cool. Question, would we be able to borrow against the IRA trust before 59.5? No. Qualified capital is a pain in the ass. There's a lot of red tape and regulation around IRAs. Even if they're in a trust or an LLC, we cannot borrow or leverage the principal to generate returns or provide liquidity. I don't know what your age is. Based on your photo here, I can't really see it because it says double click to update. But you got a little gray in your beard, so you're probably, I don't know, we're going to say 40, 45. It's my guess. Maybe you're a little bit older than that. Maybe you're a little closer to retirement. If you're younger, it might be worth looking at, and this isn't financial advice. I'll tell you what I did. I liquidated my 401 or my IRA. I'm younger. I was 32 when I did it. But I wasn't going to be able to use it, right? Like, it was going to be a long time before I was able to borrow against it or earn returns or do anything with it. That money was more meaningful to me in the short term. I did it like 30 cent XRP, so it was worth it, right? Like, the fees and taxes were a lot less than they would be today. But in the future, if you could decide that you want to do that, like, it's going to be really expensive. So just a consideration you might think through. I don't know what your time horizon is until 59.5, but you're going to be very limited in your ability to do stuff. We're working on solutions. It's not going to keep us from finding solutions to be able to generate returns in the IRA. And if we're able to do that, we can move the returns into a side pot or a side account, and then we can leverage that and we can borrow against that, but we can't borrow against the principal. So if we can utilize the DRs or the depository receipts that we've created, or we can run SMAs on the accounts inside Anchorage, which is something we're working on to be able to generate returns, either one of those should be able to be utilized for an IRA. And again, any returns that are generated additional beyond the initial principal that's been contributed can be moved into a side account. And at that point, we can do other things, and you can, have a little bit more freedom with it. But all just things, again, like cost to benefit. Thank you for the super chat. And it's a really good question. I'm sure that there's other people in the audience having similar thoughts. We got ROT Corp, ROT Corp. Mr. Claver, what is the LLC operating agreement flexibility regarding changes after submission? Can we make changes as we please? What is in stone? Nothing's in stone. So you are the managing member. You are the single member is the way that we set it up. And you can make revisions at any time. You can make an amendment. You can add an addendum. You are the end-all, be-all when it comes to that document. Now, we are going to revise some things and send out another template in the next 30 days or so. And again, it's just going to have additional provisions and benefits for all the people that we work with. We want to make sure that everybody that we're serving has the best of the best at all times. And if there are regulatory changes, one of the things that it states in the operating agreement that we have put in there is that you are mandated to keep up with that and make revisions as necessary in order to be in compliance with the regulations that are passed. And so there are some updates that need to be made, and so we're going to be passing that out to people. But you are the end-all, be-all when it comes to that document. You don't have to file it with anybody. It is for you and you alone to manage the corporation. You do want to be abiding by all of the things that are written in there. So you want to be keeping, meeting minutes with your board or other equity holders, or the manager if it's your spouse. Having a board meeting, occasionally appointing officers to the corporation. As long as you're documenting that stuff and it's filed away, which, again, we're going to be working with the compliance team here in the short term to be able to provide everybody with that. Then you're going to be buttoned up and your corporate veils can be very strong. On that, I'm going to talk about this. So we've had a lot of people ask about Missouri and Ohio and some of this other stuff where states have removed capital gains tax. Here's the deal. Every state has different regulations and frameworks around the corporations that are filed there. As an example, the only series LLC that's ever held up in court or in case law has been in Tennessee. When other states have said that it didn't hold up. And if you do file a series LLC in a different jurisdiction or different state, it does not hold up. It can be pierced and multiple assets can be, put up in judgment or liens against them, if things are in a series LLC. So you don't segment the liability the way that you would like to, which is the whole point of a series LLC. In Tennessee, the way that their laws are written, it actually works. So there's case law that actually backs that up because of judgments that have happened in that state. Wyoming and Nevada are very, very good for actual protections and the benefit of the limited liability that go along with the LLC and the charging order laws that are in those states. So there's many, many reasons for the reason we structure the corporations the way that we do, and we write the agreements the way that we do, and for the reasons that we file in the states that we do, which is only Wyoming currently, because it provides the most benefit for this type of corporation managing these types of assets. Okay, so I know people get excited about, a state is not going to charge you capital gains tax. Well, there's no state tax in Wyoming at all on capital gains or anything else. You're not going to get away from federal capital gains tax. Okay, like it's not going to be a thing unless Trump says, hey, at the federal level, digital assets aren't going to have capital gains, which I would love him to do. But until that actually happens, we have to operate under the pretense that it hasn't, and it's not going to. So that's why we structure things the way that we do, and that'll just add additional benefit there in Wyoming if it ends up being at a federal level. The regulations for digital assets in Wyoming are far above and beyond, and the protections that you get there in Wyoming are far above and beyond any other state in the U.S. Texas is starting to be progressive. You've got other states looking at DUNOs or DAOs. You've got Florida that's pretty progressive, but they still are nowhere near the protections and benefits that you get in Wyoming. And so again, you can file in whatever states you want, but if you're going to work with us, we've done more than 800 LLCs, and they're structured a specific way and done a specific way for specific reasons. And if you're working with a good estate planner and somebody that is an attorney, they're going to be looking at all these things too, but they're not, in most circumstances, not going to have the understanding of digital assets. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, that was the case when I reached out to a bunch of people and started working on this stuff. And that's why I've aggregated the professionals that we have and why we will operate and do the things that we do. So, again, I understand people get excited if you live in Missouri or you live in Ohio or you live in these other states where things are starting to change for the better. But there's numerous reasons why you would utilize Wyoming over wherever you live, unless you live in Wyoming. And again, if you want to work with us to set up that LLC, all you got to do is go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, use the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAG LLC. That's 50OFF DAG LLC. Get you everything you need to manage your digital assets inside of a holding corporation that invests in alternative investments and digital assets. And we do everything end to end to make sure it's done the right way for you. So, and again, you can do it on your own. We tell you how to do it. You can go try it on LegalZoom. The people that have done it on LegalZoom ended up coming back to us and getting it done the right way, but not to say you can't figure it out. So, Group 1 Gavin says, Jake, the legend. Killing me, man. Can you please touch on Ripple custody and who it's applicable for? Hope you guys are well. Love the lives. Greatly appreciate it. Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you being here and good question. So Ripple custody, they acquired Medico in 2023 for $250 million, and they rolled that in, and now it's been rebranded as Ripple custody. They are an infrastructure provider for institutions to be able to facilitate the custody of digital assets, and most prevalently, tokenized financial products is their main use case. They're not quite as robust at providing custody for digital assets. In fact, they're not even integrated with the XRPL, which is surprising. They're working on it, but they're not currently. So that infrastructure allows for tokenized assets, CBDCs, currencies, and again, they can do Bitcoin and a few other things, but it's not as robust as people might think it is. They do use HSMs, so Ripple Custody does qualify for qualified custodians. They're going to implement that at standard custody and remove the previous custody solution developed by PolySign from that institution. There are other people like Zodia that utilize Medico. Archax uses Medico and Fireblocks. There's a few other people that also utilize Medico on their back end. It's applicable for institutions, right? So enterprises or institutions that want to have the infrastructure to facilitate tokenized payments or the tokenization of financial products, that's what it's going to be used for, and that's who they're going to partner with. It's not consumer facing. You have to work with an institution that has licenses in order to be able to transact with, end users as a trust bank or a qualified custodian. And again, this is why I talked about Caleb and Brown. They use Fireblocks as part of their infrastructure. They do have segregated client accounts, but that's really the extent of what they provide. But they also don't charge for their custody solution. They charge you 3.5% on your transactions there, but they don't charge for the custody solution because they can't, because they're not a qualified custodian. They're not bankruptcy remote. They don't have insurance on the assets, and they don't meet some of the standards required in order to get the licenses because of the MPC model versus the HSMs that would be required for most standards. And again, Medico does have HSMs, and so does Copper. And there's some other bespoke solutions that have been developed that also utilize HSMs that meet the FIPS standards required by the SEC and FINRA and the OCC. So anyway, I really like Ripple Custody. I think Ripple does a great job. I'm excited for their implementation with a lot of their partners that I think you're going to see, roll out over the next 12 months here. Big fan of them, and we're definitely going to continue the conversations there. We'll see if we can work with a custodian or get Anchorage to leverage it. We've got Tom. He says, for institutional custody, does that 100,000 XRP qualify? Yes, it does. We would love to work with you. All you got to do is reach out to Digital Wealth Partners. And so that's the difference here. He says 100,000 XRP, or do you have to have at least $500,000 in assets? It's an either or. So if you have more than 500K and part of that's 100,000 XRP, great. But you only have to have 100,000 XRP in order to work with us at Digital Wealth Partners. He says, does it look like us non-accredited investors will be able to get to returns in our custody accounts? Again, we're working on SMAs. We have a couple partners that we're in discussions with that should be able to integrate with Anchorage to be able to run those strategies on accounts. We're also working on some other solutions outside of that to be able to accommodate people that don't quite meet the threshold for accreditation here in the US. And again, we've done this in the most buttoned up, regulated way possible to set the standard in the industry for this. And because of that, there's some ways we're handicapped. I would love it if it was just a DeFi protocol and we could be willy-nilly and earn everybody returns. But unfortunately, if you are going to be regulated by the SEC and do everything above board, there's the SEC that you have to deal with, right? And so we want to make sure that we're compliant. We're doing everything above board and setting the standard for how people are operating in this industry. And with that comes some red tape. And so we're working on solutions to accommodate everybody. And I'm hoping that we should have some of that here in June, or we just see some price appreciation because of the ETFs and the other stuff that might go live at the end of this month. So, or early June, right? All of that could happen, and all of those problems would be solved. Price appreciation solves a lot of things. So anyway, yes, we're absolutely working on that, but it does not exist today. Let's see here. We got Nick. What's up, man? He says, "Hey, mate, from Australia. Shout out another beer. Great to say hi when you come to Australia. Thanks for the solid videos. Appreciate you, man. Yeah. Sydney's on the bucket list, man. I want to snorkel the Great Barrier Reef. Singapore is also on the bucket list. I think we're going to make that one this year. We did Dubai the last couple years. Love to travel internationally. The flight is a beating, but getting there and seeing different cultures and experiencing different things is second to none. I'll tell you this. My favorite thing in the world, aside from myself experiencing new things, is watching my son experience new things. When you see your child's face light up when they see something for the first time, and even if it's something that you've seen 1,000 times, you get to like relive that experience. There's not a better feeling in the whole world. So anyway, just like the genuine joy of seeing something for the first time. So anyway, yeah, definitely want to come to Australia. Probably hit Perth, and then we'll flop over there to Sydney and the Gold Coast and that area. We've got a couple other clients. Actually, I have a lot of clients there in Australia. So anyway, definitely something that's on the bucket list, and we will let you guys know. And we'll probably do an event there in Australia when we do it. Liners has reminded me, thank you, brother. I always forget to say it, but hit the like button, share, subscribe to the channel if you're finding value in this. I do appreciate that, and it does really help the algorithm. So same thing over here on TikTok if you think it's worth it. This person's asked, can Anchorage custody XLM Doge XDC as well? So we can definitely do XLM. We pushed them hard for that. We have that capability now. Doge, I do believe they can custody. XDC is not going to happen. It's not going to happen for the next 12 months. They have some other things going on with BlackRock and holding their ETFs and doing business with them. And so XDC has been put on the back burner. But HBAR and XDC are on the roadmap for us. We want to be able to provide custody and benefits for those assets. We have a large majority of the demographic that we're working with that holds those assets and not small amounts. So we want to be able to provide that. We're working to partner with Archax, hopefully in the near future, to be able to do that. We got Group 1 Gavin. He says, if market pumps, XRP pullback, if RTC reverse carry trade unwinds. I don't think so. I could be wrong. Again, I'll preface that I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just a guy on the internet, right? So you do what you do. Couple things. I know people wanted to pull back. They want to buy more. You had 4 or 5 years to do that at less than 50 cents. Now, I'm not knocking people that just showed up. I'm just letting you know that it was there and the opportunity. It was suppressed. There was a lawsuit. People didn't want it. There was a lot of things keeping people away from XRP. And so with that, I don't think we're going back there. If they do what I think they're going to do and things unwind and it rolls out the way that I think, then they'll launch the ETFs and dump liquidity into XRP while everything else is tanking. And I think people are going to like lose their mind. They're going to be like, why is this rocketing higher while everything else is burning? Like the Phoenix, right? Rising from the ashes. Just my guess. I could be wrong. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. But even if it does go down, there's going to be no liquidity in the market to purchase it. Tether's going to get sanctioned, in my personal opinion. Again, you know, people get mad about that. I had a couple conversations the last couple days where people thought that was asinine, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if they're brought under the U.S. purview because of the stablecoin regulation, they can't be compliant. And it's not even, I don't even know that it's because they can't or they won't. It's literally they can't because they can't get the balance sheet clean. They've got $1.3 billion in Bitcoin that's locked up in a lawsuit with Celsius. So they're not going to be able to get compliant, whether they want to or not. And that's going to give the U.S. the ability to lock that down. Any U.S. exchange that's listing Tether will either delist it or freeze the accounts. There's going to be pandemonium. There's going to be a lot of problems. So any large trades that you're trying to execute, probably not going to happen in that moment. And that's why, again, I'm a huge proponent of just dollar cost averaging into this stuff right now while the market's trending sideways. then you don't have to worry about it. You have an allocation. If you want to leave some dry powder there in the hopes with a limit order, have at it. But for me, I would rather just continue to dollar cost average. And, again, I'll buy XRP all the way up to $50. I think that it will continue. The ROI on it will still be significant, even at $50. Todd says, how long does it take to set up an LLC post price appreciation? Any issues transferring XRP from Caleb and Brown? Can't wait to start making money off my XRP. No issues transferring from Caleb and Brown. We can absolutely do that at any time. You do have to have an LLC set up previous to that to work with us. And again, that's a prerequisite for us and for Anchorage and our other partners. They only work with businesses. And so that's why we structure things the way that we do. And it provides you anonymity. It provides you tax benefit. There's just a whole lot of reasons why you would want to move your assets into a corporation. But yeah, you can move it post price appreciation. It's just going to take longer. Wyoming is normally pretty quick. We normally get it back within 2 to 3 days. Unless, there's a name problem, which has happened a few times. I think we've actually ended up done like 1,200 LLCs at this point. Like we've done a lot of LLCs for people, and I think name conflicts have come up like 5 or 6 times in the total that we've done. So it does happen occasionally, but for the most part, pretty quick, in and out. Wyoming approves it immediately and then comes back if there is a problem. And the IRS normally takes a couple days to get the EIN. So you could set it up post price appreciation if you're there in, you didn't say you're in Australia, you just said Caleb and Brown. So yeah, happy to work with you whenever it makes the most sense, man. We got Evan. Thank you for the super chat. I'll look and see if you comment down below. And again, Living Legacy has been nice enough to post the code here for people. So if you do want to set up that LLC and make sure that you're in position previous to price appreciation, get your bank account set up, get your exchange account set up if you're not going to use us, work with us at Digital Wealth Partners. That code at digitalfamilyoffice.io is 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC. Get you everything all in, done the right way for $2,000. We got Rondell. Interesting name. They say, I'm invested in the growth fund as well as the income fund. How will you guys pay out? Will be paid out to our bank account. It'll be paid out to your fiat account there at Anchorage, or if it's in-kind distributions out of the growth fund, it'll be paid back to your XRP wallet. And then you'll be able to take it to your bank account via wire same day if you wanted to. The bank account will need to be in the name of the LLC or the trust or whatever other vehicle you are, holding the assets under, or the FBO account is linked to, or in the name of. But yeah, and they're working on banking services again. They're at Anchorage. It's wild to me that they're a federally chartered bank and they don't already have all these banking services in place. But none of the other partners do either. Like we've tried to talk to everybody about it, and barely any of them have it. So they're not alone. It's just with the way that the regulations have been around this industry for the past 4 years have really stymied their ability to do a lot of this stuff. And partners didn't want to work with them because they didn't know how it was going to go. So we've got the traction now. We've got bipartisan approval. We've got a crypto positive president moved in, and now they've seen a lot of traction with this stuff and they are moving forward. But, being a bank and institutions just move a little slower. So it will be paid out to your account there. You'll have it visible in your on-ramp account. You'll be able to see it, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can buy more XRP. You can move it to your other bank account. You can spend it. You can buy something else with it. But those funds will be paid out the first week of July, which will be really cool. It'd be really cool to see people get returns on their XRP for the first time in a very regulated, buttoned up, well-done way. So thank you for participating and super excited to work with you. We do have some spots left. I'll just, throw this out here. If you are accredited and you do meet the qualifications, you have at least 100,000 XRP or at least 500,000 invested in crypto, current value, we would love to work with you. And we can utilize the XRP that you move into custody to participate in the funds and generate in-kind returns on your XRP. If you want to get in the fund in June or in the income fund in June, the first payout will be in July because they're quarterly distributions, and we started the fund in April. So, be a good way to like mitigate some fees potentially if there's a good month in June. It's predicated on a good month in June. There's no guarantees of returns, but I think they've done up to this point maybe 2.5 or 3% total in both. So that's been really cool to see. Month and a half worth of the funds being at work, and we've generated about 2.5 or 3% on the capital. Very conservative, market neutral. It's not ever going to be wild, crazy returns like a guy called me today, and he's like, "I'm compounding my money, and I made 45% last year." And I'm like, "That's awesome, man." Could we see something like that? Sure, if the market's up and to the right. I was like, "How are they doing that?" And he was like, "I don't know." And I'm like, well, I'll look at it. So we'll see. Maybe it's something good. Maybe it's something we'll be able to participate in too. Evan with another super chat. Thank you, man. You didn't have to do a double. I would have found it for you. He says, how do you feel about CBDC, digital ID, and privacy? Scared, like everybody else is. I don't think we're not going to have a CBDC here in the U.S. You're going to have sovereign currencies. You're going to have stable coins, and you'll have private stable coins and a bunch of other stuff here. I do think you'll have digital ID, but I think it'll be on Hedera Hashgraph, and I think it'll actually end up saving you a lot of time and be very secure. XRPL also has digital identity, KYC, AML, credentials, and that'll allow you to put your stuff in one time, have it verified by third parties, and then you'll be able to share a hash with other people, and they'll only get the information they need for as long as they need it. So you won't have to continue to type in your stuff over and over and over again when you want to participate on new platforms. So that'll be really convenient and easy. And I think you're only going to have to share whatever data is required and not everything, because some people capture a lot of data and then you have data breaches and there's other problems. So I actually think it'll make things more secure. I think you'll have more privacy, which is probably counterintuitive to what most people think. Now, will the government have purview on that? For sure. Do they already have purview on everything now? Yes. It's not like you have any privacy or anything else. They removed that after 2000 and 2008 with all the regulation they passed. So are they going to wind that back or walk it back? Maybe you could get that done if Doge is successful and some of the other stuff. I'm hopeful that this technology is actually going to provide more security and more privacy versus where we're at today. CBDCs are a little bit different. I do think that there is going to be some type of government subsidy that the U.S. government and the Treasury issues to be able to direct spending in the economy and provide social benefits for people, which I think is a good thing. You need some social programs. People are on hard times. Bad stuff happens to people. You need unemployment, food stamps. Like there's reasons to help people. Right. But I also am a proponent, if I'm going to be paying my tax dollars, that those benefits are used the right way. And there are some people that manipulate that stuff. The WIC cards have gone a long way to remove food stamps from being traded for drugs or other stuff. So that's been awesome. But I think once you have a digital currency in that place, you could really reduce all fraud across people that are defrauding the government and abusing these systems. So again, I think that's a benefit too. Now, do you give up some things on both sides? Probably. But that's the same way with anything. Nothing's ever perfect. It's not ever utopian or dystopian. It's always going to be somewhere in the middle. And there's going to be a lot of fear mongering out there. There's going to be people that are going to tell you, you're going to lose all your freedoms and they're going to lock you up and you're not ever going to be able to escalate. Like, it's not true. You will still have all of the opportunities that you have here in the US, if not more, on the other side of this digital revolution, and a potentially, like I said, even better privacy and security. And you might even be able to get paid to be able to provide your data, because right now they're just taking it from you and you're not getting compensated for it. But if you want to allow somebody else to use your data and review all the stuff that you're doing on a daily basis, which they're doing now, you would actually get paid or compensated for that, which would be great. And that'd be a form of potential UBI for people just living their daily life, because you could be marketed to. There's a lot of things. So we got Sona. They say, I am considering custody with you guys in the future. Awesome. Who is in possession of my keys and what are the legal regulations to keep my crypto safe? Great questions. So your keys are on the blockchain It's a proprietary blockchain that does the encrypting and the sharding. Every time a transaction sent to or sent out of the wallet, they're rekeyed. Never see them. No person ever sees the keys. They're cryptographically encrypted. They're encrypted on the blockchain and then sharded and held across hardware security modules. Is the way that Anchorage does it. It's insured. Legally, the assets are still yours. They're in your name. It's an FBO account that we set up or for the benefit of. And that's why we're able to add beneficiaries and co-signers, and there's governance built in. Legally, the assets are still yours. It's bankruptcy remote. So if something happens to us or something happens to Anchorage, your assets are safe. They're not going anywhere. We're not a creditor. They're not a creditor. You're not a creditor. The assets stay in your name and they stay in your account. So, like, I don't know how to impress upon people. I'm one of you guys. Like, I want things done in a very specific way because that's how I know if I was a client, I would want it done. And that's how we've structured it. Because this is the way that this needs to be done. Nobody wanted to do it that way. It's much easier for them to do it the other ways that, have caused problems in the past and have led to issues. I have been very stringent that things need to be done a very specific way, and so has my team. And so that's why we've been able to accomplish the things that we have, and our partners have worked with us the way that they have. So hopefully, that provides you the clarity that you need in order to work with us. But if you have any further questions, happy to show you whatever documentation you'd like to review. Group 1 Gavin says, where can one ensure XRP pre-price app? Australia. Where can one ensure XRP pre-price appreciation? With us. There's nobody else that insures your digital assets. There's nowhere else that provides a institutional grade custodian that has insurance or crime insurance on your assets. Doesn't exist. We are it, which is wild to even think about, but that's the truth. Again, Caleb and Brown, they do segmented accounts and they use Fireblocks. Your assets are not commingled, but they're not bankruptcy remote. There's no insurance for crime insurance. They rely on Fireblocks insurance, which is only on their infrastructure. It's not on the assets themselves. We are it. So we'd love to work with you if you qualify. And, we have a lot of people that are insured up to 100 million now. So, and we can buy species insurance on those accounts. If your assets exceed that amount, then we can get additional insurance on those assets to make sure that you're covered beyond that amount. And we're working with, as soon as we have that problem, we'll be able to get quotes on that. Maris says, how do we deal with unrealized cap gains tax in Australia? I don't know. Are they going to tax you on unrealized cap gains? They threatened to do that here. Might look at getting it in a family trust and paying the taxes up front is the way that I would do it, or I would get it offshore. We have a lot of people that have set it up in the British Virgin Islands, in Singapore, or in Dubai, if they're in Australia. And yeah, I would. The monarchy is going to get theirs, man. They are very strict. They own all that land. You're under the crown. You're under their thumb. And unfortunately, they are pretty specific that they're going to get their money one way or another. Now, I'm hoping that there's a lot of reform there in the UK now that we have the King Charles is in. If we had somebody else come in, God forbid, God bless his soul if something were to happen to him. But I think that could change drastically the tax laws and things there in Australia, New Zealand, and the other jurisdictions that they have purview over. So I'm hoping that that's the case. But if not, I would recommend getting it into some type of structure where you can mitigate that, either family trust or offshore. It's what our other clients have done. Nicole again. Hey, ma'am. She says, I'm cutting with you. Hey, how's weight loss journey going on your end? I have lost 0 pounds, but I've lost probably 8% body fat. So I can see my abs now. I always recomp. So, like, just as an example, so I was a bodybuilder, for those that don't know, for about 10 years. At my biggest, I was 260 pounds at 8% body fat. I'm about 5'11 and a half or 6 foot tall. My last show, I was 230 and 5% body fat. And so I have, like, what people talk about, like muscle memory. It's a real thing. Your muscle actually grows mitochondria. And when you start using that mitochondria again, those muscle fibers expand. And so as I eat more protein and get back into training regularly and doing my cardio and like eating 5 or 6 meals a day and revving up my metabolism and reducing carbohydrates and adding in some pharmacology, you recomp pretty fast. So it's been going good. And we still got another 2 weeks here till our event there in Vegas. So I'm gonna try to whittle it down. I'm gonna try to be around 8% come Vegas, and wish you the best of luck. Hopefully your journey is going good as well. You gotta get that summer body. We got Robert. Appreciate you on the super chat, brother. If I see a chat down below, I'll try to make sure I grab it here. Liners, he's put this out here, and I do want to mention it. I will never message you on socials directly. If somebody messages you about a WhatsApp or Telegram or tells you about Bitflix or like, I'm going to do trading for you or anything like that, that is a scam. Do not engage. Please block and report. There's all kinds of people that have made fake profiles across every social media. I am not an AI. You can see my hands here. The real deal. But yeah, don't engage. If you message us on social media, we will respond. Look for the account that's verified, has a blue check mark on Facebook, Meta, Twitter. Over here on TikTok, I don't think I have it yet. But outside of that, we're on every platform. You can verify that it is the real account. If you do message us, we will get back to you, but I'm not going to be reaching out to you. So appreciate you, Liners, on that one. And again, that happens in the Discord. But if you're inside the Discord, you can absolutely message me and I will respond to you. I do handle all the comments there. I actually have some I need to get to. So apologize if you're watching this and I haven't responded to you in the last couple of days. I've been at a mastermind event, but I will get back to you. And then Carbon 2 has a lot more access to me. So if you do want to participate there in the mastermind, again, you can check it out. It is right here. It's beyondbroke.com, and you can use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. William Tell, says, hey, Jake, will you be adding another income fund soon? Missed out making the June deadline. We will. Can't talk about what it is or when it'll launch, but it's something we were looking at. It's another opportunity. And if you want to learn more about it, all you got to do is reach out. We got Rob. What's up, Rob? Hope you're doing well, man. Good to see you. He says, thank you, Jake. Just saying thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate you and the super chat. I'm glad to see you here tonight and hope you're doing well. We got right on the nips. I get you every time with the names. I say, hey, Jake, purchase some hash. Hey, there you go. Wanted your thoughts on potential price here. God bless you and your family, man. Appreciate you, brother. So I did research. I put out a video about tokenization of different asset classes probably about a month ago. And when I was doing that, I thought about insurance. And I was like, man, like if something tokenizes insurance and they have the premiums and the claims and like looked at that asset class. So globally, insurance as a total is $8.21 trillion. Like it's a lot of money. Okay. Global daily volume for payments and claims is going to be, or premiums and claims is going to be 3 to 5 billion. So still pretty good, decent daily volume. Right now, the only one that has any traction in that asset class for tokenization is Provenance. And they've tokenized $225 million worth of insurance policies on that chain. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, what's the token? Because if it's 0.0027% of the asset class that's been tokenized. So if you can get in on the winner, kind of like XDC was for trade finance, I found it at 0.03 of a penny. It was really hard to get to. Very similar vibes for hash. You can go to Figure Markets is the place that it's listed, or Osmosis, I think is the other one. And I should probably have like the affiliate deal to make a wallet because they would pay me, but I don't care. I just think it's cool. And it's the only thing that I've seen in the last 3 years that I was like, you know what? I'll invest in that because I think it's a flyer. I think that if it gets a good chunk of that asset class, let's just say, you know, if it got a little bit of that daily volume, $1 billion, 1/3 of the daily volume, $1 billion of daily volume, you could see 1,000x return on hash. Now, again, that's predicated on actual adoption and utility. And there could be somebody that comes out of the woodwork that garners that whole industry and wipes them out because they're the first mover, right? But they're the only one with traction. So for me, I'm like, all right, this is hard to get. It's not listed a bunch of places. It already has traction that's actually being used. I know that that the insurance it's going to get tokenized. Like there's just way too much efficiency to be had from that happening, and people will adopt it once it is, especially for the underwriting process and the payment and settlement of the claims and premiums and all the other stuff. So it's worth the flyer for me. I threw a couple grand at it. I think like $1,600 when it was like a little over a penny. And I think it's back down to 2 cents now. So it went up a little bit when I started talking about it, which I don't think anybody else is. And so that's the other thing for me. Like I try to find the stuff before it becomes hot and cool to talk about. And I'm, again, like level-headed. I'm looking for actual utility. I'm looking for things that are legitimate and could be a really good return. Look at partnerships and the team and other stuff behind it. Figure's been great. We met with them a couple of years ago. They had a bunch of stuff built out for tokenization of real estate and got like $4 billion worth of real estate tokenized on that chain. So I know they can execute. And so for them to be going after this asset class now, I'm like, okay, I think there's something here. So not financial advice. Do not listen to me. I'm just some random guy on the internet. But if you want to go check it out, you can go to Figure Markets. Hash is the token. Do some research. Do your own research. Don't just listen to me. But I think that there's a good potential return there if there is actual adoption of that network and that asset for the settlement of the insurance claims and the premiums. Again, I normally don't talk about anything but other, XRP, XLM, some of these other stuff, but that one caught my attention because of the research that I did. Robert says, hey, Jake, thank you so much for giving to the XRP community, XRP family, man. But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. I would not want to be part of any other community. You guys are awesome. He said, your insights, passion, and honesty inspire me daily. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So my question, how long does it typically take to create an LLC? 1 to 3 days, 1 to 3 business days. Pretty fast. Again, when we file it with Wyoming, they just push it through. If there's a problem, they'll come back later and say something. The IRS is the friction point. It takes 1 to 3 days most of the time to get the EIN. Could take longer. It's taken longer before. The IRS has been backed up occasionally, and it can. We say 3 to 10 business days is what we tell people. Rather under promise, over deliver type stuff. So it could take up to 10 business days. I've seen it happen, but in most circumstances, it's pretty quick. So, and again, if you do want to work with us on that, you just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAGLLC. It's normally $4,000. You get it for $2,000, everything all in. This person says, you are amazing. Love to hear your content. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Like a lot of days are rough. Not every day is an easy day. Today was fun. I got to talk to a lot of really cool founders and intelligent people at the mastermind event that I was at. Probably, I don't know, $1 to $2 billion in the room. Just different people that have had exits and liquidity events. The people that are taking over, have stepped into the role of CEO and COO at the mastermind that I was at today. Just exited their company for $150 million. So anyway, I really enjoy being around great people, and being here with you guys is always fun. And I appreciate the kind words. I get a lot of fulfillment from doing these on Monday and Wednesdays. I really do enjoy it. We got Miriam They say, I live in French Polynesia. So French law, the French don't have something like a family trust. So my family and I have been looking elsewhere to the Cook Islands. Any suggestions? My wife, you must have been talking to my wife on social media because she asked me about this. People in Europe tend to look to Monaco, Portugal, Jordan, or Nevis to establish. LLC has great laws for LLC. Nevis has great laws for LLCs. Portugal tends to be better for other types of entities, trusts. A lot of people in the UK use Portugal. You can purchase real estate there and get a golden visa. Monaco, I think you have to make a donation to the government to become a citizen. Nevis is interesting. That's probably what I would recommend if you're there in French Polynesia, off the coast in the Mediterranean there. Might look at Dubai. Also, we can do the Cook Islands if you want to. It's very expensive to do Cook Islands. It's the only jurisdiction that's ever been penetrated by another jurisdiction. Assets are super safe there, but you limit your ability for control pretty extensively. Now you have proxy, based on different things, but it still limits your ability to control assets. It's always nice to pair some type of corporation with the trust. And again, I think Nevis is probably your best bet for that based on your location. I don't know if you want to leave French Polynesia or not. On the other side of price appreciation, that might also dictate where you want to set things up internationally. If you look at Switzerland, there's a few other jurisdictions that are very tax efficient. Somebody was mentioning Croatia with no capital gains tax. I don't know if you want to live in Croatia, though. Nothing that we've ever set up there, but I thought that was interesting that somebody else had mentioned it. So happy to help you any way that we can. Cook Islands is just a little pricey. Might be better off until waiting after price appreciation for that one. Group one said, would love a step-by-step on how to buy hash. Okay. Again, this is not financial advice. Okay. You guys do what you want. I like XRP, but 99.9% of my investments over there. But if you do want some hash, you just download Figure Markets. It's an app on the Android or Apple Store. Connect your bank account, make an account there, go through KYB, KYC, and buy some hash. It's pretty intuitive. It's not overly complicated. Osmosis was a little more complicated than Figure Markets. And again, I should probably have a code or an affiliate agreement, but look, man, I don't make money I don't make a living off of being an affiliate or pimping other people's stuff. I can come on here with my own prerogative and opinion and state things. We don't take sponsorship from other people. The only other one that I have is Decent Wallet, and that's because I really do like their product. And they came to us and they were like, hey, we can't offer you much. We can give you like $5 per or something, I think is what we make on them. But I really do believe in that product. I like that it has, the biometric thumbprint, the breadth of assets that they have. The UI is good. You can add a 25th password or seed phrase. I think it's a really good product that they have. And so that's why we partnered with them. But there's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of affiliate agreements. I would rather just provide real value and create solutions for people and work with people and develop relationships. So, but that's how you can buy some hash if you're interested, is Figure Markets there. Derek says, would you explain why it is safe to use your company? Yeah, absolutely. So we're an SEC registered RIA. If any assets we're audited by a big four financial firm every single year, talking to KPMG and Deloitte and getting quotes right now for the end of the year. It'd be like $50,000 each for each fund that we run. And we pay those costs, and we're a registered RIA. You can go look up our CRD number. You can go look up the CRD number for all of our advisors. We're regulated by FINRA and the SEC, audited, all the stuff that is above board. Everything's structured in the right way. We have LPAs and subscription agreements and PPMs in place for all the funds that you have to sign. You can get your attorney to review, make sure that everything's buttoned up the right way. We have institutional grade custody for our clients, where that's bankruptcy remote and insured with segregated accounts, that's compliant under the OCC and with a qualified custodian. If there was any other way beyond what we're doing to be even more buttoned up, I would do it. I've seen too many people lose their money. I've seen too many people get scammed. I've seen too many people lose what could have been generational wealth for them and their family because of negligence, sometimes not even on their part. And so we want to be able to provide a very safe way to hold your assets, where you have your beneficiaries on the accounts, you have co-signers or your spouse on the accounts, so that they don't have to know or understand crypto. They just know that, God forbid something happens to you, they're taken care of. I think there's, I know there's a lot of people that are my age and much older that hold substantial amounts of digital assets that are deathly afraid that, God forbid something happens to them, their spouse is going to be oblivious and the assets are just going to be lost to their family. So we want to provide solutions and create income and be able to provide liquidity. We've worked with other institutional partners. We work with family offices, like happy to, give you people that you can talk to on a referral basis that have experienced working with us, to have conversations with. So anyway, hopefully that explains it. Like we've backed ourselves into a corner. Like we have to execute and be compliant and do all the things that we do, or go to jail. Like there's not an option. And we don't want to go to jail. There's no way to rug. Like we can't. And the people that I've hired have an extremely high fiduciary duty, including myself, to all of our clients. So, again, there's always going to be a stigma with this space, at least probably for the next 3 to 5 years, even after this stuff rolls out, where people are skeptical of these solutions. I can tell you, having these conversations with people and explaining why we're buttoned up, we've been able to garner a lot of trust and traction. We've got 150 million XRP under management, almost $60 million in the hedge fund that's earning returns for our clients at this point. And I think that those numbers will be extremely low in comparison to where they're going over the long term, because we're continuing to onboard clients at a pretty rapid rate of about 20 people a week. And then additionally to that, the appreciation of the asset itself is going to cause, we're going to become very relevant, very large, very quickly. And if we weren't already in the spotlight, we're going to have even bigger spotlight on us. So hopefully that answers your question. James says, going to be competitors, kid, or don't kid yourself. I'd love for you to introduce them to me. I talked to Fidelity and Deloitte and KPMG and BlackRock and JP Morgan and Blackstone, and they were all at our event. They don't have FBO accounts. They don't have segregated custody. They don't care about retail. If they do, they have it for Bitcoin. Fidelity has it for Bitcoin and ETH. They don't have it for XRP. They don't have the infrastructure. They haven't made it a priority. It is a blue ocean for what we're doing for utility-driven assets. There's nobody else focused on this. And there will be. People will show up 6, 12, 18 months from now. But we will be so far ahead at that point that, and we'll continue to innovate. It's not like we're going to slow down. We're going to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve, and we're providing more solutions and benefit than anybody else in the industry. So, to your point, there will be competitors, but it's going to be a little bit. This person says, bro, I sold my house for XRP. It might be a really good move, might be really stupid. We're going to find out. I think it's going to be a really good move. Not financial advice. Jake Arch says, Jake, can you talk about Litecoin and its future in the financial industry? Garbage. I think there is one ETF on Litecoin that's been proposed. It has no function, no utility. It's a derivative of Bitcoin. The founder dumped the majority of his tokens. It's around because it's still around and has some market cap, and it's normally the first mover in bull markets. I'll say that. That's been its tendency, is that Litecoin jumps first, and then Ethereum Classic. Both those tend to go around the same time if there is a 4-year cycle. Tends to be a precursor for the rotation from Bitcoin into the altcoins. But I think as utility comes in, Litecoin will become irrelevant. I think that it'll be one of those that just kind of fades away. Like if you look at the top coins in 2014, I think there's still 3 that are still around: XRP, Bitcoin, and ETH, and the rest of them completely changed. Litecoin stuck around longer than I thought it would, to be honest with you. It's not anything that I think will be relevant 5 years from now. No crystal ball. I could be wrong. Just my personal opinion. Already been on about an hour and a half, and I am nowhere close to the bottom of the chat. So I'm going to lightning round and try to get through all these things in the next 30 minutes here. We got Brandon G. He says, post 50 to 100 million after assets acquired. What's your first big pleasure purchase? Appreciate your vision and cultivating next level community. Absolutely, brother. A home for my wife and I will be the first purchase. And if it's not, you won't see me again. So that's going to be the first thing for sure. And then beyond that, I've got some other things that I've got metrics in my business that we want to hit and goals on that side. And as we hit those, I'll buy some trophies for myself that go along with that. But a home for my family is my next big purchase. We've got Mega Beast. They say Jake equals the XRP Michael Saylor. I'm not going to talk about the NDA I have for that in place. Something big. We'll find out. Honest Aim says, Vegas, baby. I keep hearing Trump's big problem to refinance $67 trillion loan in a few months due to high interest. Your thoughts, shed some light. Thank you for all you do in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Absolutely, brother. I think that something could transpire. What was his son put something out today with a rainbow that came up to a dam by May 31st. So, I don't know. Maybe we get something early June, or maybe here at the end of in May. They could refinance the debt. Howdy, Jake, Southeast Texas. Hey, Carbon One. Appreciate you being there in the group. Excited to have you. He said, I've tried to explain to friends that market cap is not the only determining factor for XRP. Not getting through. Can you do a deep dive for the reason market cap can be deceiving? I have a whole short video on that. You can go find it on the YouTube channel where I talk through market cap and why it's irrelevant. And I would love to go into it here. It is a longer conversation, and I do really appreciate the super chat. But if you want to look on the YouTube channel, just Google Jake Claver market cap XRP, and I guarantee it'll come up. Here we go. We got Seth. What's up, man? He says, within a few weeks, when we're talking about the domino theory, you never mention anything about having to do with oil price. What has caused this to now enter the seemingly important domino theory? So Jim Rickards laid out the domino theory, not exclusively to XRP, but the whole situation for that unwinding and it being a problem for treasuries back in 2014. And when he laid that out for the U.S. government, the catalyst was oil spiking. And it's obvious at this point that they're not going to raise rates unless their hand's forced. The Fed's not going to lower rates, and the Bank of Japan is not going to raise rates unless something forces their hand to do so. And they're going to need an outside catalyst that promotes that or pushes it. So that is why I'm confident that you're going to have to see a spike in oil. And I don't know if it'll be through a conflict in the Middle East or something gets blown up or something happens where potentially the Strait of Hormuz gets closed and 1/3 of the global oil supply is cut off overnight. That would be a systemic event globally that would cause oil to spike. And I think that could be the catalyst. Again, that kind of just harkens back to Jim Rickards. Jim has been a consultant to the U.S. government for a long time. And the way I'll say it is this, if you don't orchestrate your demise and play it to your advantage, somebody else will. So you want people on your team that are thinking through disaster scenarios and how you can benefit from those disaster scenarios instead of going out of business. And I think that's exactly what Jim Rickards did for the U.S. government. I think that they came in and said, hey, here's all the circumstances where you guys are screwed. And they were like, okay, how do we use these to make it a benefit for us? And so anyway, maybe I'm conspiratorial, but that's what I think is going to happen. He said, also, does this invalidate some of the previous thoughts? Absolutely not. It's just precursor. Everything else will transpire from there, but I think it's going to be oil that'll be the spark that lights the match. Joseph, thank you for the super chat. Or Joshua, excuse me. Golly. Let's see here. Make sure I don't miss any other ones because we are running out of time. We got Bamba. They say, hey, Jake, hope you're doing well. Quick question. I have a grandson with 10K XRP. Very cool. Good for him. If appreciated to $100, he would be able to join. Let's say it goes higher to 1,000. Would the dividends net higher as price goes higher? Yes. Yeah, our goal the mandate and the goal that I've made for our team is to pay out somewhere between 10 and 15% APY on your total portfolio per year. The first 8% goes to our clients. We take our AUM fees, anything over 10 million is 40 basis points, which your grandson would then be over that. And anything beyond that, until we make you at least 8% on the year, and the high watermark is your previous portfolio balance on December 31st of the previous year, we don't make any more money. We just make the AUM fee, which covers our costs and allows us to scale and do the other stuff. But we don't, we go 80-20 on anything after 8%. And so that's what we're looking at. So if you had $10 million and we're making you 10%, making $1 million a year, probably doing all right. Unless crazy inflation happens, which I don't think it will. I think we get deflation. Willie Plank says, I'm new here. Can you do a quick 60-minute explanation of what your business does? Absolutely. So we are a multifamily office. You may not be familiar with the term family office. Most of the time it's somebody that's had a liquidity event north of $100 million that sets up a team specific to manage their money. So CPAs, estate planners, tax attorneys, wealth management, CIO, other people that are managing their portfolio to make sure that they make a bunch of money over the year. Most family offices cost somewhere between 1% and 3% of the total AUM that they have in order to run on a regular basis. There are some multi-billion-dollar family offices that operate on 6 to 10 million per year. So the larger the AUM that you're managing, the less percentage of that you tend to pay. We want to make that as accessible as possible for people. The majority of our clients that are family offices have somewhere between 20 and 100 million under management, and we work with them to provide financial services and professional services for their digital asset allocation. So if they make they have an allocation in digital assets that is a portion of their portfolio, we help them manage that. We provide all the other professionals as advisors to their other professionals in their group to make sure that they're structuring things correctly for their digital assets. And then we work with specifically people that have the majority of their wealth in digital assets, do a lot of proactive work, work with people that have somewhere between, $500,000 and $5 million allocated to digital assets. And that could be a larger portion of their net worth. We've positioned ourselves in a position. We are positioned to work best with people that hold large amounts of XRP. And that has been the primary demographic that we've worked with up to this point. Although we do have clients that have larger positions in Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, and a few other digital assets. And so we're able to provide liquidity against those. We provide institutional custody, insurance on your assets. We set them up in like a Schwab account through Digital Wealth Partners, which is a subsidiary of Digital Ascension Group. So Digital Ascension Group provides all the other professional services. Digital Wealth Partners is an SEC registered RIA that provides all the wealth management services, including but not limited to a hedge fund where you're able to generate returns on your XRP, both in kind and in cash. It's probably a little more than 60 seconds, but It's my elevator pitch. Getting better at it. I'll refine it down. Let's see here. Deborah's Money says, Wise or Total Token? Thanks for your answer. Does Ripple have a partnership with Zbeck? No. Although David Schwartz has talked highly of them. So, Miles Wilder says, how much market share will Constellation have compared to companies like Oracle? That's a great question. I talked to Ben. I'm going to have Ben on the podcast tomorrow. Actually, I take it back, Friday. Ben Jorgensen, who's the head of Constellation and DAG. I think if more companies know about them, I think maybe they'll get acquired. They are a for-profit. So if they sold out to somebody like Oracle, then obviously Oracle would utilize that and implement it with all of their current infrastructure and clients. And that's probably their best bet in order to penetrate the market at scale instead of competing against somebody like that. But they are, a decentralized network. They leverage that, but they do, specific work to build out, metagraphs and specific use cases for government entities. And Panasonic was a large partnership that they've announced. I think they're more of a middle market solution. So still enterprise grade, but more middle market companies like Panasonic. I think a lot of large corporations are going to gravitate toward HBAR. Just my personal belief. And there may be specific use cases where Constellation is better suited than HBAR and vice versa. And we'll find all those things out on the interview with Ben. Shadespot says, "G'day, Jake. You mentioned rekeying the wallet on Monday after sending crypto, but how do you rekey a decent wallet?" Google. I would Google that. And you can rekey. So the seed phrase is not the key, just so you're aware. Seed phrase is what you use to regenerate a wallet address. The keys are separate of that, and they are on the blockchain, and they are exposed when you send or receive things in order to keep your wallet quantum proof and best secured. You would want to rekey it after any transaction where you send assets out of the wallet. Sending assets to the wallet is only going to expose one key, whereas sending assets out of the wallet will then expose the additional key, and rekeying that sending key is going to be what's best needed in order to keep it quantum secure. And now, again, I would just Google it. I'm sure there's a walkthrough on Reddit or somewhere. We already been through this one. We just went through that one. Got a couple more here and we'll wrap it up tonight. We got Shadespot. He says, you always said XRP, then HBAR, then XLM, and you never saw a huge ROI for XDC. Now you say all those ROI. What changed? Nothing's changed. XDC, I think, is going to go to $1 to $5. I still think XLM will do better than XDC. People just, people ask about ROI or which assets I think are good, and I think those are good. I mean, what's XDC at today? Like 4 cents, 5 cents? If it went to $5, that's 100x. That's a lot of money. It's a significant return. I think XLM's still 50 cents or something. I think that could go to $5 also. Probably more than that, $25, $50 maybe. So similar return. I think all of those, I think XRP will be substantially more than the other ones, but I think the others could see, somewhere between a 50 and 100x. A couple more and then we'll wrap it up tonight. We got Jack Gold. He says, hey, Jake, appreciate everything that you do. Thank you, man. Appreciate you being here. He said, what are your thoughts on Vello, on Stellar, and its place in the new financial system or Stronghold? Do you think Vello can hit $1? Yeah, I think Vello could probably hit $1. I think that's possible. Same thing for Stronghold. I mean, it's not that I don't like or dislike those. I just don't think that they're going to have the same appreciation. They're a layer 2. They're in specific use cases. If the volume on, Hyperledger goes up, then I think those will do well too. you know, all boats rise on a rising tide type thing. But I just don't think that they're going to have the same ROI as some of the other assets, even though they are really good. And Stronghold, like, it's not going to get 1 or 2% of the payments market. Stripe will bring their own solution out and demolish whatever they're doing, or they'll acquire them. One of the two. And then Vello is interesting. I think peer-to-peer, you know, lending on stocks and being able to trade tokenized stocks on that and small values is very interesting. And I think that they're probably going to gain a lot of traction. $1, I think, is very, very reasonable. What's up from Norfolk, Virginia? What's your thought on Ripple's talks in the UAE today around the same time as Trump? People don't know what's going on in the Middle East, man. There's a lot of stuff happening over there. Not a coincidence, in my opinion. Thanks, Jake. Lucky grandson. He hasn't even been born yet. Wow. There you go. Gifting that XRP, taking care of the grandbaby. That's awesome, man. Okay. Well, that is it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you for hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. Again, if you do want to join the mastermind, you're just going to use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. Come check it out. We have private deals. We do much more deep dive stuff than this. We have a lot of other resources and education there in the group. Almost 2,000 people there in the group. So growing like crazy. We have in real life events. We have another one in Vegas on the 28th. So if you want to know where that's at, if you're going to be at XRP Vegas and you're going to come in a little early, we'd love to have you at that event. I think we have 150 people registered. So that's going to be a really good one. If you do need an LLC, we would love to do that for you. If you got, you know, somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 in your digital assets, it might be a good idea to start thinking about that. Go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and you can use the code 50OFF50OFFDAG LLC. Get you everything all in for $2,000. And if you do need, you know, your assets in institutional custody, want to be able to generate returns on your XRP or be able to borrow against it, you can work with Digital Wealth Partners and just go to digitalwealthpartners.net and go to the contact us form there. You do have to have an LLC in place or a trust or some other structure. We do IRAs and can do all of that and provide custody for people there. And you are going to need at least 100,000 XRP or $500,000 in current portfolio value. And that can be across 3 different things. If you had a trust, an LLC, and an IRA, and all of that came to $500,000, then we would love to work with you. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and we will see you guys on the next one.